Hey everyone, Sarah Squires here, the Narcissist Abuse and Parental Alienation Specialist, and today we're going to talk about a really difficult subject, which is sexual abuse and parental alienation. First of all, I want to issue a trigger warning. This is not an easy subject to cover, and it may bring up some real concerns within you, even some own memories from your own past. So please do make sure you have support in place before you watch this, okay? So, as we've discussed in previous video on enmeshment, that narcissists get too close to their children, and I'm not talking emotionally close as in overly loving, although they can't overly love them, but they put everything into that child. They live through that child, but they can use them as an emotional crutch. So they overshare details of your relationship, but on top of that, they can have them physically too close. So they may start sharing a bed with them, and the child will go along because they're so desperate to please their parent. They become responsible, or they start to feel responsible for the emotional well-being of the parent, and so they do everything they can to make them happy. And many narcissists will abuse this and will push this. So what can sometimes happen is that the child becomes the surrogate partner in the relationship, and it will start off with those having those conversations where they have a go at you, they complain about you. Their child becomes the person, their confidant. They do that as a dual reason, obviously to belittle you, but also because they want to enmesh them to create this overly close bond that the child will have to them. And so they overshare, they use them to try and make them happy, and that burden narcissist is never happy, and this poor child is expected to make them happy, and so it is jumping through all these hoops trying to keep them happy, and when they're not, they feel guilt and they feel shame, so then they do even more to try and make them happy. And you can see how this can progress. And so it may be that, like I say, they are sharing a bed because the narcissist doesn't want to be on their own, and with some, it may progress from there. It may be that a hug that the child feels is uncomfortable, but it makes their parent happy, and they spend all their waking life trying to figure out how to make their parent happy. It's their responsibility. It's been made to be their responsibility, and so they go along with it because it makes them happy. And it can get pushed, the boundaries can get pushed further and further and further along, and the child can end up doing things that they know they don't want to, but they're so desperate for that love, they're so desperate for the attention and the affection, and to see their parent happy, because otherwise they'll feel like a failure, they'll feel guilty, they'll be made to feel those things. And unfortunately, when those boundaries are crossed, it just creates even more of a bond between them, and not in a positive way, but the child will be made to feel like they can't say anything to anyone because the narcissist will say that it's their secret, and if they tell anyone, then they'll never see each other again, and that terrifies the child. They've already lost you, so they don't want to lose anyone else, so they keep the secret. And obviously, to keep the secret, you have to alienate yourself from everyone else. So it becomes that cycle where they push you away even further because they can't tell you what's going on. and they push everyone else around them as well. They will snub peer relationships. They won't have friends of their own because they want to be best friends with the narcissist. The narcissist needs that from them, so the narcissist won't want them having any other friends because they'll see them as competition. So you'll find that they really struggle with having friendships. And it just creates a very lonely and isolating place for the child. And obviously, sexual abuse is horrendous for that child. The shame that it becomes a part of that and becomes a part of their own internal working model. It's horrendous. And this is all because of the narcissist's way of thinking. Add to that a narcissist doesn't see sex like we see it. They see it as a need. They see it like being hungry, and if you're hungry, you eat. And so for them, having sex with their own child, it's acceptable because they're just meeting a need. And so it's all very distorted. Relationships become very distorted. They treat their children the exact same way as they would treat you. They will gaslight them so that they don't know what's truth and what's not anymore. They will project all of their own feelings onto the child, and obviously they will alienate them in the same way that we've just talked about. And I want to say that not all narcissists will sexually abuse their children, but all narcissists have this mindset of treating everyone in the same way. So if you recognize any of the behaviors that we've spoken about, if you have some gut feeling that something just isn't quite right, talk to your children, talk to them about appropriate boundaries, talk to them about sexual health, make sure that they know that there's people to talk to, even if they don't want to talk to you, and just be there for them. Obviously, you won't have proof. It's a very difficult thing because they have enmeshed so closely that the child may not even see it for what it is. The child will just see it as they're very special and that it's just a natural part of their relationship. So even if you were to report this, it's unlikely that the child would state that anything was going on because they don't view it as being necessarily even though deep down they wouldn't necessarily know that it was abuse. And also they're terrified because they've been threatened. They've been threatened with losing everything if they say anything, so they're not going to back it up. So if you do have concerns, just try and do whatever you can to support the child to be confident enough and to help them to recognise what healthy boundaries are, and rather than just come out and say that you think something's going on, help them to make those connections themselves, because that is what's gonna break this cycle, and giving them the confidence to speak out and, like I say, to stop it from happening is, if you go in yourself, you're gonna alienate them even more and make it a tighter unit. And so if you're seeing your children at all at the moment and you're worried this is happening, your best thing is to just keep communicating with your child, because if you report it, if it doesn't get proven, you've lost them, and then there's nothing you can do. So keep talking to them, and like I say, help them make them connections themselves. And this is a horrible, horrible subject to talk about, and I'll be honest, I was in two minds about whether to do it, because I think it needs talking about, because it is a very real risk. But I don't want anyone that's watching this to automatically jump to that conclusion that it is happening. Like I said, that there are warning signs, there are behavioural signs that you can look for, but your very first thing for you to be doing is to talk to your child. Talk to them about what's going on, not make accusations, not make any judgment calls, just talk to them around relationships, healthy boundaries, all of those kind of things, because they are the ones that are going to need to have the strength to identify this for what it is. And I know it from my own experience that the more you jump up and down and shout abuse, the more that closer they become enmeshed to the abuser, because they don't want to hear it and they don't recognise it, and so they end up thinking that you're the problem. So you actually push them further into the arms of the alienator, and obviously that's not what I want to do. This video is it's meant as a warning of what can possibly go on. It's meant as an insight into what happens in the narcissist's minds. It's an element of parental alienation that we can't ignore. And like I say, it was a big decision to make this video, because it is such a difficult subject to broach. But I do feel it needed to be said. I'm aware that it might bring up things, like I say, even from your own past, or certainly concerns around your child. If you need that support, do reach out. You can email me at inquiries@thenurturingcoach.co.uk. But like I say, support your child to build their confidence, support your child to recognise healthy relationships, healthy boundaries, and that is going to be your best course of action for dealing with this right now.